Oh, hello. Rightio, Jules. I'm just going to unmute you. Can you hear me, Julia?
I can.
Oh, sorry. I'm looking for.
Hi.
Hello. Are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. And now. Wait, where are you?
Oh, hang on.
There you
Aha!
are.
Oh, hang on. Wait, channel. I'm going to change that.
Yeah.
There we go. Confused you?
Yeah, you did. I was looking around. There was a Julia in the top right, and then I was just like, she's what? I've never seen that. Cool. How's it going, everyone? It's good to see so many people straight off the bat. It's good. Oh, hashtags there. Hey, Brent, how's it going, mate? Rightio, guys. So,
the Brent Finlay here.
Yeah, the Brent Finlay. He doesn't miss any of them. He's committed. It's bloody good.
Excellent.
Rightio. Well, we'll just quickly go over some stuff. So this is Jules. Obviously, she's going to be having a yarn to us about her career, her experience, a bit of canopy coaching, maybe some crazy stories as well. If you have a question throughout, I think most of you guys have been a part of this. You can open the chat box, and then it will open up on the right. You can just message any question you have there, and I'll make sure we get it asked and answered. Alternatively, if you would rather say your question, there is a little blue hand icon as well. If you click that, it raises your hand, and then I can unmute you, and you can fire away. But that's pretty much my little spiel. I'm going to hand it over to Jules. She's going to introduce herself a little bit.
Thanks, Stewie. Hi, I'm Jules McConnell. You've read the bit of a blurb about me. I've been jumping for about 25 years. I'm currently working for the Australian Parachute Federation in sport development, which is quite different. It's sort of the administrative side, but I'm still getting out to the drop zones and finding out what the sport needs and how we can develop it in the best way, which is pretty exciting. I'm learning a lot in this new job. But in the past, I've been a competitor in canopy formation and canopy piloting, and I've got 11,000 jumps. I love flying parachutes, so I would just like to, connect with you guys in this time while we're here in isolation in all parts of the world, and please feel free to fire away any questions relating to anything, whether it's canopy formation, how to fly your parachute. I'd rather keep it more informal and just have a chat and answer your questions as opposed to, give you stuff.
So what I'll do is all those that information, I've just punched it in the side there, guys. So there's a little bit about Jules. There's some pretty cool numbers there. And Fleming has actually started off, and I'd love to hear this story, 150 jumps in one day. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I must say I was asked at the gyro boogie, actually, what was my most memorable jump in my career. And I had to say, well, there was 150 of them. It was probably the highlight in my career. So it was January 13th. It was a Friday the 13th in 2012. My teammate, Michael Vaughan, and myself were organising a fundraiser for the team and also for the Westpac Rescue Helicopter. So we were sponsored by Skydive Oz during our training in two-way canopy formation. And next door, there was the Westpac Rescue Helicopter, who were just sort of starting out, and they were looking for support via sponsorship. So we thought, what a great way to not only put our name out there, but help support a local, I wouldn't call it industry, a local service. And So we decided to do 150 jumps in a day. So the previous record, Aussie record for number of jumps in a day was 100. And that was done by Tim Stevens. He did 100 jumps in 24 hours and he packed every single one of his parachutes, which I thought we both went, well, that's amazing. But we'd like to go for bigger and better. So between Michael, myself, and Crash, our other teammate, who's our videographer, we organised a fundraiser, and we, I don't even know where to start. There was quite a lot of organising of it. We built a website so that people could donate money, and how they donated, they sponsored a load. I think it was $50. And basically, if you were there on the day, you could come and jump with us. We had 3 planes. They were all Cessnas, two 185s donated by Skydive Oz, and a 182 from Skydive Australia. And we got about 10 rigs each that we'd organised from mates. Michael had put little labels on the risers of what the canopy size and type was. We had about 40 volunteers that day, about 8 packers, refuelers, pilots. We had runners to the plane. We had food and water going to the plane. Lisa Perticizzi was doing media for us. I actually had, we use Bluetooth helmets when we're training just to talk about our moves. And so I had a Bluetooth to my phone, and I was actually answering radio interviews while I was in the middle of this 150 jumps. We had a couple of guys on the ground with helping us getting out of our rig. So we'd land, so we'd take off, and then it'd take about 2 minutes to get around to height. We'd get out from anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 feet. So we're just doing hop and pops. We landed, and we'd land right next to somebody who would help us get out of our gear, and then there would be another person with our next set of gear next to the plane, and they'd help us get into the gear. They'd remind us of what the canopy was because they could see it on the riser, and then we'd jump in, we'd check each other's gear over, we'd have some water or some food in the plane while it's climbing to height, taking all of 2 minutes, and repeat 150 times. It was so much fun. I think just the collaboration and the team effort of making that whole day happen. Every sort of monumental jump, like we did our 100th jump, and Pooh said, well, what do you want to do with that? And I said, oh, well, I'm going to jump naked. Everyone jumps naked on their 100th jump. But when we broke the record of 101, Michael and I jumped on our NZ Aerosports matrices and build a 2-stack. So anytime we build a 2-stack, we go up a little bit higher, like 4,500, build a 2-stack, fly it around. And I looked down, and there was this big 101 on the ground. And I was like, oh, wow, they've put jumpsuits out like for us for 101, like we've broken the record. And as I got closer, and I'm flying Michael in underneath me, planning to land in the middle of this zero. And next thing, like pretty much right before I dropped him, I realized, oh my God, that's people. And there was all these people lined up in this 101 on the ground in the middle of the landing area. It was, yeah, just such a cool day. Like I said, everyone just got together. Our 150th jump, so we got all 3 planes in formation, and we had all the volunteers. They sort of put their names in a hat and picked out who was going to come and jump with us. And again, we went out at 4,500 feet, and we had this mass hop and pop. And at Maruya, Rex Airlines is a regional airline that comes in, and we always sort of have to hold when they drop, which is all good, like when we're doing height loads, because you just climb up and go higher. But they've been hearing us doing these jumps all day. And of course, it was just before 4 o'clock. I think we finished right at 4:20. But as we're climbing up to height, and Pooh's made the announcement, well, we're doing, 3 minutes to drop or 1 minute to drop. Next thing, Rex calls in and saying, oh, you know, we're coming in, and which means usually we have to delay. And Rex has gone, oh, no, you guys will go around. So actually, for the first time ever in history at Skydive Oz, we made the plane Rex go around for us. So, you know, again, it was just a huge team effort on everyone's part.
It's pretty amazing.
And, oh, it was huge. It was so much fun. It was definitely, yeah, like taxing physically and mentally, especially jumping all different size parachutes. Michael had done a lot of homework with that, speaking to the world record holder from the US, who's done, you know, 600 jumps in a day, I believe, Ray Stokes. And so got a lot of tips from him, which was really beneficial. But yeah, it was, yeah, I think the biggest thing was, yeah, jumping the different canopies and just knowing, okay, you know, just making sure you took it easy just so that you could land and be safe to make it through the day. Yeah.
What canopies did you have, out of curiosity? Like, what was say the most high performance one? Because you're not going to go crazy, so you're going to keep it pretty mellow.
Oh, look, so I mean, we were jumping out. I mean, at the time, I don't even think that was 2012, so the layer and petrol weren't even out. But we were jumping JVXs. I even think there was it the Clara or something? Was that the first Crossfire 3 prototype?
Yeah, Clara.
Right? Clara. I remember jumping her.
Yeah.
I remember we decided, okay, we're not going to do any bigger than a 120. I mean, both of us had, you know, 5,000 plus jumps at the time. So we're like, well, let's keep it as quick as possible. Like, let's keep the turnarounds as quick as possible and jump small canopies. So I think the biggest that we had was a 120. Well, that's what we thought. So I had this canopy that said 120 on it, and I kept opening up and just going, oh, damn, this feels like a dog. Anyway, I kept landing, you know, we just repeat. You jump a different canopy, because we both had our own 10 sets of gear. So every now and again we get to jump our own. I think my smallest at the time was my JVX 79. Michael was probably jumping something slightly smaller. But yeah, we had a lot of cross-braced, you know, 89s, 90s, around that size, and a few, you know, either Sabre 2s or Crossy 2s, Crossy 3. Oh, no, not Crossy 3s at the time. Yeah, Sapphires. And yeah, I just remember jumping this 120 and just going, wow, I really have to tell this person who owns this canopy that it's a dog. Turns out it was a 135.
And Michael had done all the checks, and he'd
yeah, we hadn't done crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's in the equipment. But yeah, that was, yeah.
Was there a point that was there a point that I don't know, during it, where you were like, what did you hit the wall at any point? Like, at what point or what jump number do you remember going like, damn, this is really hard?
Oh, for sure. So, look, it was beyond the 100. I felt like I was running on adrenaline. I'd actually done a lot of pre-training prior, doing lots of my own sort of CrossFit sort of training, and Michael's always fit. And I actually had my pilot. It was just an interesting, you know, I'll get to that answer of this question, but the pilot at the time, he actually, he lived at the drop zone and so did I. And I was saying, look, I really want to get fit for this. And I want to train with a rig on, like doing some running backwards and forwards from the drop, from the runway back to the landing area. And he said, oh, you're going to make your rig really sweaty. And so he actually made me this tire and filled it with sand so that I could put that around my neck. And so I'd just do, you know, from the landing area out to the runway and back, you know, and do 10 of them, run up the stairs, 10 of them, push-ups, chin-ups, and just was getting super fit. So I felt actually really well prepared physically. And I think it was more the mental fatigue than physical for both of Michael and I. It was about 50 jumps in, and Paul Smith said to us, look, actually, he'd said to, we put a couple of people in as team leaders just to oversee the whole thing. And he'd said to them on the ground, you probably want to mention to them just to chill out, like they're making good time, just take it easy. Because I think we were getting a bit ahead of ourselves and, you know, woo, just doing some, not crazy things, but maybe a few, you know, just what we would consider normal landings, but to get through 150 of them might be a bit excessive. So on that particular jump, Michael actually landed first, and he tried to land with his brakes stowed, which is really, I don't know why. But he thought, oh, this is something I've always wanted to do. I figured today would be the time to try it. Well, probably not. And unfortunately, like he landed pretty hard and not so well. And look, out there to everyone who's listening, I would not recommend doing that. Don't try to land with your brakes still stowed. So he had whether you're doing 150 jumps or one, it's just not ideal. He injured himself, and bless him, he just continued through, you know, and he was an absolute Trojan. That we had some nurses on site which were giving him ice and ibuprofen and that kind of thing to keep him going. And I think he probably fatigued a bit earlier than I did because of that physical strain that he was having. I remember getting to about, probably 130 jumps, and I noticed that he was mainly facing to the back of the plane and I was facing forwards. And I think he might have been getting more air sickness from facing that direction.
Oh, wow.
But I was on my knees, and I was getting really fatigued in my thighs. And by the last sort of 20 jumps, I ended up just sitting down. And Michael said, oh, well, that's something I learnt from Jay Stokes. He told me to sit down early on. I'm like, oh, why didn't you give me that tip? That would have been handy. But I couldn't walk upstairs for about 4 days afterwards. My thighs were just killing just from kneeling, like for that repetition.
Did you kneel on every jump?
Pretty much until about 130. And then I realised this is hurting. Yeah.
I remember just kneeling in the back doing a camera jump in Byron Bay in the caravan and just jumping out, and your legs just didn't work for the first 20 seconds because they were dead and pins and needles.
Yeah, I don't know. My adrenaline was
that's amazing.
More than the pain.
So we have a question on the side from Erica. It's regarding, I think, Jay Stokes, but just we'll kind of segue it into you. So how long did you guys jump for?
We planned for, we figured 10 jumps an hour. So we planned for 15 hours, and then we put a dork factor in of a couple extra hours. So we actually started about 5 a.m, which was slightly before sunrise, just so that it was right in the middle of summer. And if you can hear that whimpering, that's my dog, Deadly.
Yep.
He's having a bit of a...
I just want some attention.
Call him Whimpering Jack. He's trying to do the latest hits of beating... what's his name? Johnny Farnham's records. We were planning for 15 to 18 hours. We actually finished at 4:20, so we finished in less than 12 hours. Yeah, we were stoked.
It's super good. So now to put that in context, I guess, because the question is, how many jumps how many hours did it take Jay Stokes to do the record?
Well, his was 24 hours. So he was trying to do the most amount of jumps in 24 hours. We were just aiming for 150 jumps in a day. Yeah. That was our goal. Because quite a lot of people asked us, well, why didn't you go for more? And we went, well, that was what we were planning.
Yeah.
And we just stopped there. And that just allows for other people to go and smash it.
Yeah, I think 150. I don't want to break that record. I think 150 jumps is... Even if it's not 600 or 650, whatever Jay did, it's still a massive amount. I know obviously you're not going up to altitude and you prepare for it, but you do a full day on the drop zone, you film 15 tandems or you do 15 tandems and you just absolutely rinsed by the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine. Yeah, it's amazing. Did anyone have questions for Jules? So feel free to stick them in that group chat down the side there, guys. For sure. she's here
I've
to answer.
noticed I've got a private question from Christian, and he's asked, when you're canopy coaching, what wing loading would you recommend for learning to do turns more than 90 degrees to 270 degrees? And then his second part to the question, what should your students be proficient at? Oh, he's got a few parts to the question. What should your students be proficient at before they approach graded rotation turns? Would you recommend 135s and 180s as intermediary turns? So the first part of the question, what wing loading would you recommend? I don't recommend a wing loading. It's fly the wing that you are comfortable with. You can start learning high performance turns on any canopy with any wing loading. You just need to understand the safety parameters. I know there's so many different coaches have so many different ideas about when to start and what size parachute to start and what wing loading. To me, I think it's all about being confident with what you can do now before you move on to the next thing. I think I see a lot of people progressing a bit too quickly because they just want to be, go faster and be better, but they miss the basics. So it's really important. And I don't see wing loading is the answer. I see it's the time under your wing and being confident under your wing to progress to the next stage. And it's different for every individual. For some people, it takes more time, more jumps. For some people, less. Everyone learns at a different rate. There's so many different wings out there, and harnesses as well. And you've got to find the one that works for you. I've coached so many people under different wings, and some people say, "Oh, I love my Pilot," and people go, "Oh, I hate it," and "Oh, I love my Crossy 3." Well, everyone loves their Crossy 3, but just because your mate loves their Crossy 3 doesn't mean that that's going to be the right canopy for you at this time. And we're talking about more about canopy size than actual turn degrees, but look, I think when you're learning high performance stuff, you've just got to take your time and just consolidate the basics that you've learned. And I think you get coaching, get different coaches, but that might be a bit too technical, I think, to talk in a big forum like this. I like to would I recommend 135s and 180s as intermediary turns? I think if you can get a good 90-degree turn, and it's not just I see a lot of coaches teaching this dynamic stall to front riser and into a turn, and to me, that's way too advanced for beginners. I think beginners just need to learn a very simple, just carving turn, harness, riser, just understand your wing, looking at the picture nice and slowly. All that stuff is adding those extra elements adds more complexity, which then can also lead to failure, if you miss any one part of that puzzle. So I think just keeping it really simple and progressing slowly and getting consistent with your landings will make you a safer canopy pilot. I hope that answers your question.
Cool. Right, we have another one from Frank. Two-part. How many crew camps a year do you run for novices? And the second part, what type of canopy do we need to bring? Does it have to be a crew canopy? He has a 7-cell Omega 155.
Okay. Look, I don't run enough crew camps. I'd love to run more. Now that I'm working for the APF, look, I've barely been jumping in the last year. So, look, I'm planning to change that. But also, I'm in this new role, I'm learning to delegate, and we have some great leaders of crew down in South Australia who are doing some really fun camps. We got Lyle Waddle over from Canada last year, and he's a phenomenal coach. We're going to get him back again once all this pandemic goes by, and yeah, because I think he's got a wealth of knowledge to give to our not only crew community, but our crew coaches. So, but yeah, I definitely want. I would like to be running more for novices. We've got Brendan Buell and Sarge Andrew Preston up in Queensland are doing some beginner stuff as well. What type of canopy do you need to bring? So that's a good question. We're fortunate enough in Australia to have a lot of crew canopies available. We've got a set of about a dozen army gear ranging from 126 up to 160. South Australia have just invested in 4 canopies, a bit larger, 176. I think they got a 193 and a couple of 160s. Plus, they've also got their own personal ones ranging from 143s up to 176s. And I've actually got a spreadsheet of pretty much everyone in Australia who owns a crew canopy, and where they are and what size they are. And whenever I'm running a camp, or if anyone else is running a camp, I just give that information to them. And if that person who owns the canopy isn't coming to the camp, we'll actually ask them to send that canopy, and hire it out, because, the more canopies we have to use, the better. The Amiga is a great, it's sort of an all-round canopy. Generally in social crew, we use PD Lightnings, just because most people have them, and they're great. Look, they work for the 100-way world record, and I think that was a massive a promotion for canopy formation in our sport. And a lot of people went out and bought the Lightning, and look, they're proven to work for big way, and so a lot of people are using them and they're a good entry level crew canopy. So I would say, even if you're wanting to get into crew, don't be put off by the fact that you don't already own a crew canopy. There's heaps of canopies available and can be made available for a camp. We generally, if we're organising an event, we'll ask you ahead of time, if you don't have a crew canopy, what size canopy are you jumping now, so that we can match a size for you for the camp. Yeah.
So with that, Jules, I guess, are you saying then you would veer away from using your everyday canopy to go out and start practicing crew?
Oh, for sure. Look, when I first, I guess in the last 20 years, there were quite a few canopy collisions, involving fatalities, and there was a bit of an epidemic of it for a few years in a row. And I mean, most of it was more high performance pilots running into lesser experienced people, but still some nasty incidents involving people trying to do social crew without actually getting any formal training. So I would definitely recommend getting on a basic crew course if you're wanting to do crew, or even, I mean, in my canopy courses, I do some one-on-ones with people on their own wings. But I fly next to them. I'm not actually trying to dock, or I do end up, sometimes docking and spinning them around, but I've got a lot of experience. And I often, I definitely at the end of the jump say to you, I don't recommend you doing this with another person without getting some formal crew training. And the reason being is the equipment's very different. With crew canopies, you've got a retracted pilot chute and bridle. So there's actually, and that's probably the biggest thing that could kill you is if you get into a biplane's where one parachute docks onto another, and then you actually bring the parachutes down and get them close to each other. And if you think about the pilot chutes and bridles trailing off the back, they can actually entangle and could cause a fatality, or cause a wrap and or worse. So there's the reason why we use crew specific equipment is for safety. So yeah, highly recommend getting proper coaching for safety. Yeah,
using the right tool for the job as well, isn't it?
Totally. Yeah.
Right, we've got another couple. I'm going to go through them in order. This is a pretty good one, actually, and relevant to everyone. How should I get current after the world stops burning? That's from Potters.
Thanks, Potter. Look, I definitely think you need to just take a step back. We've already not been jumping for over a month, and some people even longer. And it's a really common thing. Here in Australia, we jump all year round, over in some northern states of America, they're only jumping 6 months of the year, and the same in Europe. And so they're pretty used to having this get together at the beginning of the season and do a safety meeting and get everyone current. Us here in Australia, and probably the same in New Zealand, are not used to that. So I'd recommend just wherever you are at when you finish jumping is not where you're going to be at when you get back into jumping. So just, don't just take one step back, take 10 steps back, and just, go up and do a two-way and just high five your mate, But even before that, let's go over all of our gear and our gear maintenance, go over your emergency procedures. I mean, even now, all this cool stuff that we're doing online, chatting with each other about safety stuff, is so important to keep us thinking about it. But we should, before we, that first day on the drop zone, we'll probably spend a day just on the ground, just checking each other out, or at least a couple of hours. Even if you're an instructor and got 10,000 jumps, you don't want to be rushing back into where you've just left, because we're not going to be there,
Yeah. For sure. The currency's just not there for sure. So
it's not.
All right. We have another one from Julia. I've done about 30 crew jumps from 2-way to 12-way on my Lightning 143, but I have a friend at my home dizzy that I'm planning to do 2-way sequential with. We're the same exit way and both have 143s, but we'd like to switch to Storms as soon as possible. Is that something that we should approach with caution?
Cool. So, well, obviously, when you first get back, I just get on the Lightnings, don't even think about jumping on the Storms. Go on to what you're comfortable with. And it's that same thing of, how current you're going to be when you get into this. So start off on the Lightnings. Definitely have the goal of getting onto the Storms. The Storm is definitely a superior wing to the Lightning, especially for two-way. But be comfortable and get to know the basics on the Lightning first, and even get to the point where you're almost bored, because there's no point thinking or going, oh yeah, we're not going fast enough on our 143. We'll just make it faster by getting on a smaller, more faster wing. It doesn't work like that. You learn the basics better, slower, and doing it slower and seeing the pictures on a bigger wing and a more docile wing. It's going to feel a little bit more painful, I guess, to learn that way. But the benefit will pay off in the long run by seeing those pictures. You'll get more consistent pictures on a slower wing, and then be able to put all those skills that you've learnt on that wing into the smaller one. But don't think that the wing is going to fix your problems. It's not. So definitely approach with caution, start on the wings that are more suitable for your experience level. Yeah.
Cool. We've got just over 5 minutes. So if anyone has any questions, for sure. Have you got any more there, Jules?
I haven't got any private ones.
All good. Well, we'll just keep going on. I see over your left shoulder. Yeah, that's right. You have a nice photo of your 100-way.
Well, that's actually the Aussie 36-way record,
36?
but
Aussie.
if you times it by 3, it would be 100-way. So this was, but yeah, let's talk crew, because crew big way, it's fun. Do you want to talk about the 100? Yeah, you're asking a question about the 100-way, are you?
100-way, might as well, yeah. Well, tell us
Yeah.
the story about the one that you like the most. We've only got a few minutes, so
Okay.
back as much as you can in.
Oh, why wouldn't I talk about, I mean, it's still the standing record for Canopy Formation. And we did that back in 2007. There was 8 Aussies that went over there. It wasn't just the 100-way, it was the lead up to the 100-way. And actually, I mean, all thanks to Chris Gay and his team who coordinated it, which was about 7 years in the making. I used to actually follow crew and do video for crew, and video people training for this 100-way. And then I met Michael Vaughan and we decided, geez, this crew is fun. And then we just thought, oh, let's do a team. Oh, geez, they're doing a 100-way. Let's try and get on that. And we actually had to do we had to go over to the States and do a training camp. And that's my dog again, if you can hear him.
You're right.
Yes, that's Jedi in the background, Ravo. So this 100-way, geez, the organisation of it was next level. I know with other disciplines, there's a lot to do, to get everyone together. With Canopy Formation, you've not only got the people and their weights, but also the canopies and the how old the canopy is, how many jumps it's done, and because the flying characteristics of a canopy might mean that you need to have this person who's flying well wants to be in this slot, but this canopy needs to be over here, so you've got to change them around. We all sort of got there on the first day after having done a lead-up camp beforehand to get an invite, where the organisers had actually videoed all of our training jumps and looked at our split times of when we docked on the formation, and you had to have an average split time of 10 seconds. So they're looking at you going, oh yeah, you're in, or you're on the backup bench or whatever. So we get there and we all get weighed the first day with all of our equipment, and then they look at your gear and they just go, oh no, we want you there in the formation, yeah, but we want that canopy there, so they swap you around. And they get to building the base 64-way and they're like, oh, Rusty Vest is there from PD with Chris Gay and some of the other guys going, oh, the formation isn't quite flying healthy, I think we need to grab those 3 canopies from the centre line, cut 6 inches off the middle of the lines, and we'll put that back in, and next thing the formation's flying great. And it's like, wow, like, they're having to, and that was after 7 years of, watching record upon record being broken in the lead up to it. It was really phenomenal, the engineering of it all. Actually being on the record, so I only got a couple of minutes left. Less than a minute. It was bigger than a 747, and you're flying next to it, looking at it going, oh my God, I'm about to dock on that. But then you just realize, I'm actually just docking on that one person, so it's all relative. If you look at it, take a step back and go, whoa, this is a bit too intense. But if you actually just focus on your job and what you got to do, and I've got to dock on that one person, you just keep everything simple.
Awesome.
Yes,
I wish we had more time.
I know, me too.
We've only got a minute. But pretty much it, guys. I think we're going to run out of time and it's going to cut off. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I hope you were entertained. I love those. I haven't heard those stories before either, so I absolutely loved them. The 151 was awesome. So thanks, everyone, for joining us. And thank you, Jules, so much for taking time out to do this. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Stewie. And thanks, everyone, for coming and listening. Good luck.
Awesome. Cheers, guys. Be safe and hopefully be back in the sky soon.
Yeah.
Nice one. Bye.
Mm-hmm.